Hi, I'm Mike Gafa, and on today's Whiteboard Wednesday, I want to talk to you about blind spots. About 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with a condition called open-angle glaucoma, and it's an interesting condition in that it moves very, very slowly by degrees, and in simple terms, a person's eye pressure it begins to get very high, and in turn, your field of vision begins to shrink by degrees to the point where if it is left untreated, you can go blind. Well, thankfully, there are ways to treat it. I take medical drops many times every day, and it keeps the condition at bay. So what does that have to do with ministry and specifically leadership? Well, I believe it has a lot to do with it because I think we all have blind spots. We all have sort of peripheral vision, and it's easy for us in our humanity and our shortcomings to kind of, not see the whole picture. In simple terms, we don't know what we can't see. And so we have blind spots. And so two things that I want to quickly touch on is what do you do about it? Well, first thing you have to do is sort of diagnose. So where are my blind spots? So out here on the whiteboard, I just put 4 areas, 4 realms: physical, relational, emotional, and spiritual. And just to kind of help guide you through this is there's a few things to pay attention to in each of these. So in the physical realm, pay attention to your sleep patterns. Pay attention to exercise and diet. And what I'm talking about here is if there are triggers, and there typically are for most of us, that cause you to lose sleep, or to not exercise in healthy and ongoing ways. Maybe you break your routine, or you just start binge eating, or whatever the diet problem looks like for you. I have my own challenges. Pay attention to that, because those are probably the potential to develop blind spots, and a slip on diet can become a lifestyle if we're not careful. Or, a sleep deprivation can become your life if we're not careful. Similarly, in the relational side of things, pay attention to how you interact with people. When you're under stress, do you put distance between yourself and others? Is that something you tend to do? Do you cut people off, cut them short? Do you become impatient? That's a signal. Are there boundaries that are kind of blurred, and you enter into perhaps unhealthy relationships, or, whereas if you're clear-headed and thinking straight, you're not going to cross a certain boundary that suddenly you begin to gradually cross. Things that are inappropriateness doesn't happen overnight, and if we're developing blind spots on the relational side of things, a lot of times it looks like that. So pay attention to those factors. On the emotional side, kind of similar to relational, a little bit different, but do we find ourselves overreacting to things, or perhaps underreacting, which is a way of saying I'm not going to deal with it? Do we find ourselves experiencing dramatic mood swings? These are all sort of symptoms of potential blind spots that, especially when we're under stress, can cause us to function in ways that we're just not ourselves, and we can be the last ones to know at times if we're not careful. And then spiritually speaking, pretty straightforward. So your spiritual disciplines, time in the Word, time in prayer, small groups, whatever that looks like for you, the rhythms of your life, whether it's prayer and fasting, certainly worship, but if you find yourself breaking those rhythms, you're not in the Word in the morning so much, or you open up the Bible and 3 minutes later you close it and you're on going about your day, or you find yourself very quickly labeling people that you don't agree with instead of seeing them as fellow humans fearfully and wonderfully made by God, or a lack of connection, that you're just not connecting with God in the way that you know you should. So all of these are kind of indicators of spiritual blind spots, and usually what happens is when we're under stress, or when we're in a busy time, one or more of these things starts to emerge. And a lot of times we just consider they're blind spots because we think of them as normal. I'm really busy, I don't have much time to connect with God. Or I'm really, got so much on my plate that I don't really have time to eat well, so I'm just going to make another fast food run. So the diagnosis part is kind of looking at some of these things, being really honest with yourself, trying to pay attention to your own tendencies and where you kind of feel slippage in one or more of these areas, and then bringing other people into it as well. People you trust, loved ones, a spouse, an accountability partner, friend, coworkers, whatever that is for you, but bring others into it as well. And then there's a treatment plan. And, at its basic level, as in my case, the best treatment I get is preventative treatment. So I have a specialist, a doctor who prescribes medication for me. He checks me regularly to make sure that my glaucoma doesn't worsen. And it's the same thing with us too. So if you know that you struggle with diet or impatience or mood swings or whatever it is for you, if you can sort of diagnose that that's a problem or an area that I struggle with, and you bring other people to help you into that, create a treatment plan. If you're not diligent in your disciplines, create a spreadsheet or a tracking mechanism, measure it, but do whatever it is that you have to do to be preventative, to do the very best you can so that these blind spots don't become, or potential blind spots don't become true blind spots. And then, if you find yourself in a situation where something becomes a blind spot for you, and you begin to realize that, and it's not so much about prevention as it is, I just have to deal with it, that's where I say, bring others around you that you trust, pastors, leaders, networks, whatever it is for you, and really, pray into it, but get authentic and vulnerable, and bring others in to help solve it. Certainly you want to go to God, but bring others that you can trust as well. I hope this helps. It's an area of struggle for me. I have my own struggles on all of these things, and since you're human, I'm guessing you probably do too. But thanks for listening. Have a good day.